what's going on, guys? This is Coach JC, and I want to welcome you to another episode of the Win All Day podcast show. I am super excited. I cannot wait for you to hear from our guest today. But before we do get into this episode, here's what I want you to do. If you are a frequent listener, you know what time it is. If you are not a frequent listener or viewer, then this is the time that we go through our Win All Day winning confession. See, I believe that you cannot live a life of winning if you are speaking, losing, defeating words. So we believe in the power of your words. So all I ask you to do is just repeat after me. Here we go. Today is my day. Nothing will get in my way of me being the best version of me. I am here on purpose. I have a purpose. I am strong. I am passionate. I am fearless. I choose faith. I was born a winner. I will win and win all day. Yes, you were born a winner. And I believe after this show, you will be winning more in your life. I just brought her on the screen. This amazing, talented overcomer. This is my good friend, Amberly Lago. How are you?
Well, I am awesome, especially now after hearing that. And you know what? I just have to say thank you. I have your words on my desk. Thank you for sending this. You are amazing. And also, thank you for the Win All Day playbook. I love this. I just feel so grateful for the opportunity to get to be here and talk with you and all the listeners, and love your energy. So thank you for having me.
Well, we are grateful and thank you for being here. And I believe in something, Amberly, and it's called divine appointments. Like we were talking before we even, hit record on this episode. And I honestly don't even know how we got connected, but I do believe that our steps are ordered. And as we looked, we have friends and people, a lot of people in common. Obviously you speak, I speak, you coach, you're an author. And so I think the coolest thing about life is you're in LA right now. I'm in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm born and raised in Jersey. We just talked about you might be moving to the great state of Texas, and we got connected somehow. But here's what I do know. I don't believe in mistakes. And I believe today on this episode that lives will never be the same after they hear your story. Now, I don't know your entire story even. Like I've researched and read a lot about it. And here's what I do know. I do know somebody, and I don't remember who it was. It was in a DM. I was just thinking about who it was. They said, Coach JC, this lady, wait till you meet her. She might have more energy on stage than you. So I don't know about all that, okay? But we will find that out soon. But I'm super stoked to have you. And I'm going to give you just a very informal introduction. And then I would love for you just to introduce yourself. But you are going to hear today on this show as a listener and as a viewer, a story of absolute resilience and perseverance and overcoming challenges. Many of you know my story and what I went through and the comeback kid story. You are going to hear one today that I believe is going to inspire you and motivate you. So this is my good friend, Amberly, a motivational speaker, best-selling author, and her life story of ridiculous, over-the-top resilience is inspiring and absolutely revolutionizing, like people all over the world. And I've heard that you just bring this unique, like you to the stages, and your attitude and who you are, your strategies, and how you just help people tap into like their superpower of resilience and perseverance through their own challenges. And that's what I'm excited about. So once again, let's welcome the one and only Amberly to the Win All Day podcast show. We are grateful you're here.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. I love your energy. And as you were introducing me, it made me laugh a little bit because you were talking about the resilience and the comeback. And my husband and I actually have a joke because I've nearly died a few times. And I was trying to call him and he wasn't answering his phone last night. And I said, I finally got a hold of him. I was like, honey, I've been trying to get a hold of you. You haven't answered your phone. I said, I could have been dead. I could have been dying or something. He's like, oh no, you just won't die. God keeps spitting you back out. You just won't die. So we've learned to add humor into our life to get through a lot of difficult times. But truly my intention is to share some of the things that I've learned through the toughest times of my life, how I crawled out of darkness, how I overcame 34 surgeries to save my life and my leg from amputation, and how it's never too late to completely reinvent yourself, because I will be 50 soon. And I feel like I'm just starting with, new opportunities and career. And, I just owned my first laptop 5 years ago.
Right.
So yes, I am not kidding. I've lived my whole entire life on the dance floor. I used to be a professional dancer, and then I was in the fitness industry, and I lived on the gym floor. And so technology and all of this is so new, but I think that when you really want something and you're passionate about it, you can figure out ways to make that happen. If you know your why, you can get through almost anyhow. And so I just want to say, no matter what you want to do, if you're feeling stuck, if you're feeling like, oh, it's too late for me, or I could never learn that, if I can do it, seriously, anybody can do it. So I'm excited to be here with you.
Yay. I'm super excited as well. I think the first thing I would love for you to do, right? We're going to get into a lot of cool things today. And I think the greatest thing is how we were able, I know I was and you were, and I didn't even know the whole fitness thing. That's another thing we have in common, which is just awesome. But I think just how you can create a new story in your life, right? I think you said that no matter where you're at right now, no matter where you're watching from or listening from, like you can change the entire trajectory of your life, and you can create a new story for your life. And I'm super excited to hear more about your story. Do this for us. There might be people that never heard of you. There might be people on here that know you, but they haven't heard your whole story. Just kind of take us back. Like, where's Amberly from? How did you get to where you are today? And then we'll get into some of the kind of the tragedy and the overcoming and all that. So just take us back a little. Listen to the life of Amberly way before you had a laptop. All right.
Okay. Yeah, I was actually just in Dallas last month, speaking at an event, and every time I get to a new place, one of the first things I do is I go explore and I figure out where I can get outside to work out. And so I walked out and I found this empty parking lot that I could do walking lunges and work out. And I know that may seem kind of strange to other people, but Coach JC, I'm sure with those guns that you have, I'm looking at your guns and how you work out, that you would probably look for the gym or a place to work out first thing too. But I was walking, and it was outside late at night in Dallas, and I looked up and saw the Reunion Tower, and there was this big Texas lit up on it, and it just hit my heart, because that is where my big dreams all began, was in that Reunion Tower. I'm from a small town, and we didn't have much growing up there. My mom had 5 kids, plus I had a stepbrother and a stepsister. So we would go out to dinner and people would say, oh, whose birthday is it? And we're like, no, this is just our family. But we were lucky to get to go out to dinner. Most of the time, my mom, fried spam. I know that sounds, but it was like whatever we could afford to eat. But I worked hard. I worked at the dance studio. I started babysitting. I did whatever I could to be able to take dance lessons. And I loved dance. That just brought me so much joy. And so I went to a dance convention at Reunion Tower. And I remember thinking, I was about 8, 9 years old, thinking, these people are on stage dancing and they're from Los Angeles. One of these days, that's what I want to do. And then music, MTV came alive, and that was when we had like MTV and night tracks, and I would see all these music videos with dancers. And I thought, wait a minute, you mean I could get paid to do what I love? I am going to do everything I can to save up money so I can move to Los Angeles. And with not a lot of support and a lot of doubters and a lot of people saying I was making a big mistake, I worked several jobs. I was a lifeguard. I taught dance. I scrubbed toilets. I work in the mall at this little place called the Cookie Jar. I was babysitting, and I managed to save $1,200 up, packed up my little Suzuki Samurai that I had bought on my own, moved to LA. And a month later, I got my first dance gig, which was dancing with MC Hammer in the song Can't Touch This. And so all the people that were like, oh, you'll never make it, was like, oh my gosh, that's my friend. I knew she'd be, making it in Hollywood someday. And so I really had such an incredible life. I mean, there was a lot of rejections. There was a lot of failures there, and it was cutthroat. I mean, really cutthroat in the dance industry. Sometimes you would line up and it was a cattle call, and they would say, you're too fat, or you're too skinny, or you're too tall, or you're just not right, or whatever it was. I learned to really let rejections roll off my back. I learned to reframe those as, okay, what have I learned from this? And that one no and that one audition that I didn't get is getting me closer to the job that I am going to get. And I was very fortunate. I mean, I got to dance all over the world. I taught dance. And I think that when you get to do what you love, wow, that's priceless. But also I feel like your hard work puts you where your blessings can find you. So no matter what dance gigs I was getting, I always had a side job waiting tables or bartending. So I had that steady income. And then when I was a single mom, I thought, this is just not anything. I didn't want to travel anymore, because I used to travel overseas and have long, you would be on the set sometimes for, 24 hours at a time. And I thought, I don't want to raise my daughter like this. And so that's when I got into the fitness industry, because, I asked myself this question. When I knew I wanted to switch careers, I think it's important to ask yourself, what do you really love? How can you make the biggest impact in other people's lives? How is it sustainable? And what brings you joy? And for me, working out really brought me joy. And I had rehabbed myself from a knee injury. And I thought, well, I canceled my surgery for this meniscus tear by going to the gym and working out and getting stronger. And I thought, well, if I can rehab myself this way, I can either go to school to be a physical therapist, or I can be a trainer.
Yeah.
Being a trainer sounded like so much more fun. And so I was in the fitness industry. In fact, I still have a couple of clients that I've had now for like 20 years, because I love it so much. But that all changed. I mean, my fitness career, I was nationally recognized as a coach. I was doing infomercials. I don't know if you know who Body by Jake is, but I did one of his infomercials. I was in Shape magazine. I was in Health. I was on the labels of vitamins. Like if you walked into any CVS or Rite Aid, you would see a picture of me and some pictures of me and my daughter on a lot of the vitamin labels. I was doing fitness modeling and videos. And that all changed. In that you were talking about how things can change, how you meet people, how you're destined. Everything changed in the blink of an eye when I was coming home from work. And, my workout partner was this guy who he was the fastest guy in the gym and one of the strongest guys. And that day we ran 11 miles and I beat him running. And it was like such a good day. He wasn't too happy about it, but I was like, yes.
For you, it was a good day.
It was a good day. And I remember, it was a holiday weekend, and I jumped on my Harley, and I thought, I'm going to take the long way home. I just want to feel that sunshine on my face and the wind through my hair a little bit longer. And I'm riding down Ventura Boulevard. And as a motorcyclist, you learn to ride defensively. So you're always looking around you, making sure people see you. And I made eye contact, at least I thought I did, with this guy in a truck coming out of a parking lot. Well, he shot it out of the parking lot. And I thought, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. I had no time but to let off the clutch and jump off my motorcycle, but it was too late. I was T-boned, thrown about 30 feet, and I was sliding across the asphalt. And when I finally came to a stop, I looked down at my leg and there was immediate pain. And my leg was completely broken into pieces. I mean, it is crazy to look down and see your leg, and my foot was dangling off, and I didn't want to let go of my leg because I really thought it might fall off my body. Blood was everywhere. And the first thing I did was started screaming, and I was saying the F word. And then I thought, wow, my Methodist mama would not be too proud of me for saying that. And I could not control the screams out of my mouth. And then I didn't want to reach in my backpack, which saved my life. I slid across the asphalt on that backpack. So I didn't want to reach in there or try to reach in to grab my phone. And so I started screaming out for people to call my husband, and I was yelling out his number and call 911. And I had a guy that saved my life. And to this day, I have no idea who he is. I wish I knew, but people weren't running over to me. They were walking really slow with a terrified, like a horrified look on their face. And then I thought to myself, well, this can't be good. I might have to train clients on crutches for a while. So my default was already to think, well, what can I do? What is this going to look like? How am I going to be able to work? Yeah. Almost like survival mode. And paramedics got there quick. The guy that saved my life, I had no idea my femoral artery was severed. He made a tourniquet on my leg right away. And I had a nurse that happened to drive by. And I swear all my guardian angels were like on overtime that day. And this nurse grabbed my hands and she said, I need you to look at me and I need you to breathe. And she's like, just breathe. And it reminded me of when, I was having my first child, and I did Lamaze, like the breathing. And so I was breathing. I got loaded in the back of the ambulance. And I remember, my husband got there and he seemed pretty calm. And in the back of the ambulance, I was looking at the paramedic's face. I was squeezing this guy's leg so hard, and I was looking at his face to get some sort of reaction. Like, how bad is it? What? And he wouldn't look at me. And I thought, oh, maybe I'm going to die. He's not looking at me because he knows I'm a goner. When we got to the ER, my husband was freaking out. Now, he's a first responder. He was retired now, but at the time he was a lieutenant commander with a highway patrol. So he's used to rolling up on all kinds of scenes, all kinds of, accidents and deaths and all sorts of things. I had never seen him cry. I didn't realize until afterwards that they had bagged me. And what that means is they had basically put me in a body bag. They were thinking, well, she's a goner. Let's go ahead and put the bag on her. And just my head was out. They had unzipped me, and the doctor was trying to grab my femoral artery and pull it to reattach it and stop the bleeding. And I screamed across the room, honey, I need you to get over here and be strong for me. And the whole room went silent. And he came over and held my hand. And that's the last thing I remember before this beautiful nurse leaned over me and she said, we're going to give you something to make you feel all better now. And because I had lost so much blood, my organs were shutting down. They couldn't control my pain and I was in shock. They put me in induced coma. A little over a week later is when I woke up and got the news that there was nothing they could do for me. I had a 1% chance of saving my leg, so they were going to have to amputate. And so that was really the beginning of a journey that's changed my life. And that 1% is what I chose to focus on. That was my glimmer of hope that I held on to. I found a doctor and a team of doctors. Actually, I got transferred to a different hospital, which took an act of God in itself, just to cut a lot of red tape and 34 surgeries, one at a time, one day at a time, sometimes moments at a time. They were able to piece by piece put my leg back together. And I really thought that the hard part was over. But honestly, you know, Coach JC, that was hard. The 34 surgeries was hard. What was harder was when I got out of the hospital and I thought everything was going to get better. I mean, as an athlete, I knew injuries. I knew grit. I know grit. I love grit. I knew how to work hard. I'd worked hard my whole life. I knew that if you worked hard and you did all the right things, then things would get better. But to my surprise, I learned that wasn't the case for me. I went into this doctor's appointment. I was told that it would take me 2 years to be upright and start to walk again, if I could ever walk again. And it was 4.5 months. And I had just gritted it out to be able to stand up on crutches. And so I was on my crutches and I was so excited to go to this doctor's appointment. And he took one look at me and said, "Well, you've got something very serious." And I'm like, "Yeah, duh, I have something serious. I got hit by a truck." And he's like, "No, you have a nerve disease. It's called complex regional pain syndrome, and your life's never going to be the same." He said, "You need to go back home and get in your wheelchair. You're going to be permanently disabled. You'll probably have to wear orthopedic shoes if you're able to wear a shoe again." And I said, "Well, how long do you need me to stay in my wheelchair?" And he said, "Forever. You're not going to get better."
Wow.
I was devastated. And that took me down a path of, when I tried everything and nothing was working for the pain, down a darker path. And I think the resilience that I discovered through dealing with pain, it's been my biggest teacher. I still have constant chronic pain, but I have found ways to get through pain. And, a lot of people listening, like you might be listening to this going, "Well, I've never been in the hospital." And I pray none of you, not one person ever has to be hit by a car or ever has to be stuck in a hospital bed with bed sores like I was. But you know what? You might be sitting here listening thinking, "Well, I feel like my business has a 1% chance of surviving," or "I feel like my relationship, especially after COVID in quarantine, has about a 1% chance of surviving." There's a lot of things that you're like, I'm hanging on by a thread. I feel like I've got this 1% chance of getting better. And I can tell you that there are ways to get through adversity. There is good in every situation. We can hunt for that good, and there are tools absolutely to get you through the most challenging times of your life. And we all have pain, whether it's emotional or physical. That's part of life, and we can choose to listen, embrace it, and allow it to better us, or we can allow it to make us bitter. And what I've learned is, yes, pain is inevitable. I mean, we're going to have pain. There's things don't always go as planned, but suffering's a choice. And I decided I did not want to suffer anymore. I did not want to wait. This nerve disease I have, there's no cure. And so I found myself trying to wait around for a cure, to wait for things to get better, to get back to my old self. And I found that when resilience isn't about waiting, and resilience isn't about bouncing back, it's about moving forward. It's about choosing courage to move forward and live a life of joy and happiness, no matter what is thrown your way. And so I know that was a really long answer to your question, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of detail about how, I really was active my whole life. It was truly a catastrophic moment, but it turned out to be anything but catastrophic, because I've learned through it. I've learned a new perspective on life, and it's the new perspective and what pain has taught me, and how I've been able to really tap into resilience. And the thing is, we all have that resilience within us.
Yeah. Wow. Come on, Amberly. First of all, thank you for sharing that with us. And you said so many powerful things in there. And first of all, like, I got my start in the fitness industry, you're talking about fitness. You mentioned you were a lifeguard. I grew up being a lifeguard on the Jersey Shore, right? You talk about being a single mom. I was raised by a single mom, and then I was actually a single dad raising my boy.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm looking at all these common like themes, and I and then MC Hammer. Come on, like who doesn't love MC Hammer? Like can't touch this. I grew up. I was either gonna, my story was I was either going to be a rapper or I was going to be a professional athlete. So I love MC Hammer as well. So what amazing things you've accomplished, and we could stay there all day. I think just before the accident even happened, like there's so many life lessons on what you had to do. That I pulled out of there. Like whatever money you had, moving out to LA, and where most people would have feared that. You took faith-based decisions, right? And I look and I went back to there and just said, how many people listening right now, right? You need to go back and rewind, and just that little nugget alone, a young lady on her own with this vision that God put in her heart to be a dancer. How many people make fear-based decisions every single day, and because of that, they miss out on opportunity, right? You took a faith-based decision to move out to LA to pursue a career, and that propelled your career. But how old were you when the accident happened?
Gosh, that was 11 years ago. 30. Oh, wait, let me think. I was 38.
So 38 years old, and you said you're kind of pushing 50 now, right?
Yeah, I was 38. I had just turned 38, and I always go by how old my kids are.
Yeah.
My youngest daughter was only 2 years old, and I had never been away from her. Like
Yeah.
never gone one day without seeing her for sure. And my oldest daughter was in 8th grade. And when I woke up out of a coma, it wasn't one of those Hallmark movies where it's like you open your eyes and your family's there. It was like I woke up out of a coma fighting for life. Like I was waving my arms. You've got tubes in your throat. I was trying to rip the tubes out because you can't talk. And the sweet nurse was like, oh my gosh, I think she's trying to tell something. Get her a pad and a pen. And they brought me over a little pen and a pad, and I scribbled out on the pad. The first thing I wrote was, my husband was leaning over me and he had tears in his eyes. And I wrote, get off my tubes. See, he was leaning on the tubes and I couldn't breathe. He was cutting off the air to me. And he goes, oh, and he backed off. And the next thing I wrote was, please don't tell Savannah. And that's my oldest daughter. And now, when you're going through a hard time, any kind of a hard time, it doesn't affect just you. It affects everybody around you. It affects your loved ones. I just got off the phone with my oldest daughter last night. Now she is going to Yale. So she's in Connecticut and she's studying medicine. And she said, Mom, she said, I'm having a hard time connecting with people. It's really hard for me to make relationships out here. And I told her, I said, well, Savannah, I said, just when you meet people, start asking them questions about themselves. That's how you get to know them. And she goes, I know that you should do that. She said, but I have such anxiety. She said, after your accident, I felt so out of control that the only thing I could control was the grades that I got. And she said, that's when I started studying so hard and started making straight A's and started doing so well playing the cello. And she said, and that's what led me to studying medicine after seeing all your surgeries. And she said, and that's what led me here to Yale. And I said, well, you know what? That's a good thing. And you can work through that anxiety, but thinking about how this affected her. And I said, it could have been a lot worse. You could have gone to drugs and alcohol. I mean, her seeing me always in her eyes is I was her rock. I was the one that was always solid in her life. And now to almost die and be in the hospital for 3.5 months. And then when I get home from the hospital, I looked like I had been through a war, and we had the hospital bed in the middle of our living room. And I took care of everything. I did all the cooking. I was the maid breadwinner of the family. And now I'm stuck in a bed and I couldn't even use the bathroom on my own. I had to ask her to carry my bedpan. It was traumatic. And sometimes we don't realize how trauma comes out in our lives. And I think that we're going to see a lot of that, even with what's going on in the world now with the pandemic and all these kids that haven't been able to go to school, and they've, now feeling uncomfortable, or they feel traumatized and they're turning to their devices or whatever they're turning to try to numb out that pain, and they're not able to connect. And I don't know how it is there in Tulsa, but like here in LA, it's starting to open up a little bit, but it was locked down for a while. And I'm grateful that I was able to be an example of resilience for both of my daughters, and we had things that brought us joy. I think it's so important to do things that bring you joy, no matter what circumstance you're in. And even when I was stuck in the hospital, I knew how to get those, how to hack my brain into happiness.
Yeah.
And we have all those chemicals in our brain, from endorphins to serotonin to oxytocin to these chemicals. And so I got all my happiness before, like I would say 90% of it. My drug of choice was exercise. And in fact, I will tell you this, because you being the workout king yourself, when I first woke up out of a coma, one of the doctors came over and he leaned over me and he whispered in my ear. He said, "Now, this is between you and me. I won't tell anybody, but do you have a drug addiction? Do you use drugs?" And I said, "No, sir, I've never used a drug in my life." And he said, "Well, are you an athlete?" And I thought, well, can't you tell? But he said, no. He said, "I must have had so many endorphins in my system. They had a hard time knocking me down and keeping me in a coma." And that is the power that these endorphins have in your body. And so I knew as an athlete what brought me joy. I knew that movement made it moved my mood. It changes the way you feel. And so doctors thought I was a little bit crazy, and I am, I guess. I'm kind of proud of that. But I asked for a pull-up bar in the hospital bed. So I was stuck in the hospital bed, but they installed a pull-up bar over the bed. One of my friends that I worked with brought me some dumbbells. So in between surgeries, I did what I could to move my upper body, because I knew, not because of, oh, I want muscles in this hospital bed. I knew the way that it would make me feel. It would give me confidence. It would give me a little bit of control over my body. It would make me feel like I was moving in the right direction. And so if you're feeling down, or you're feeling stuck, or you're feeling like hopeless, like there are ways to feel better, feel happy. I mean, just this morning, and sometimes I still can't work out the way that I would want to. Like I'm in a CRPS flare up right now, which means my foot basically feels like it's on fire, like being eaten by fire ants with a vice grip on it. But I can still go to the gym and do what I can for my upper body. There are days when I can't do that. So I have to hack my brain chemicals another way. You can increase your serotonin with meditation. You can you can get oxytocin from hugs, from being kind to people. You can also get it from creating art or music. And this morning I thought I am going to crank up my happy chemicals in my brain. So I turned on my favorite music in the car. And I mean, I had it blaring. I was listening to Sheryl Crow, and I had the windows rolled down, and I was like singing, and it really does move your mood. And so whatever you can do, I've got people that are like, well, how could you be happy when you were stuck in the hospital bed? Resilient people choose very carefully what they put their attention on. And I will admit, for a while, I stared down at my leg that's now deformed and scarred. And back then it was completely open and held together with these steel rods. And the nurses would have to come every 3 hours and rip these bandages off and change and put new bandages to prevent infection. And when I could feel myself spiraling down, the quickest and easiest way to shift your perspective is to get grateful. And I mean, it changes the way you feel about your situation. So instead of looking down at my leg and thinking, oh my gosh, is this the day they're going to amputate it? Is my husband going to be attracted to me? Is he going to love me? Is he going to leave me? Or am I going to be able to chase after my kids? How am I going to work? Like, what if I die in the next surgery? All these things that were spiraling down into a despair. As soon as I started writing what I was grateful for the nurses that were taking care of me, for the friends that were coming to see me, and my clients. I think I needed my clients more than they needed me, because I needed purpose and I needed to be of service any way I could. And I've had people go, well, how could you be grateful? And how could you be of service when you're stuck in a hospital bed? There's so much. You can always do something. There's always something to be grateful for. I have a gratitude practice, and I practice because I'm not perfect. I mess up all the time. And so as long as I practice it, I can get better at it. And I have an accountability partner, and we message each other every day what we're grateful for. And every night I get in bed with my daughter and I ask her 2 questions. I'm like, what was the best part of your day today? What was the best thing that happened today? And what's one thing that you're grateful for? And most of the time it's pretty silly, but I found out just last December how much that gratitude has changed my 13-year-old's life. I could see it. And I was so proud. She just got awarded most empathy in school. So they were given all these awards. And man, yeah, it's great to be a straight A student. It's great to do a lot of things, perfect attendance. But when they gave the award for most empathy and she got it, I was like, oh, I love that.
Come on, Ma. That's huge. Come on. I feel you on that. That's amazing to be a mom and a parent, to know that your kid shows up to school with compassion and empathy. Come on. Hey, so you answered like every question I was going to ask you. So here's what I'm saying.
Sorry, I talk a lot.
If you're listening right now, like rewind this, because one of my questions was going to be, what's some of the practical things you did, right? Obviously to bounce back. We heard them, right? I didn't go by how I felt at the moment. I had a pull-up bar put above my bed. I understood meditation and exercise and, gratitude and all these things that are very practical things in the natural, that no matter what somebody listening or watching today is going through, it might not be as traumatic as Amberly. But like she said, it might just be a struggle in your business. It might just be a struggle in a marriage. It might be a struggle in your fighting against some health issues. You might not be laid up in a hospital bed, but it's still the same practical, tangible things that you could take from what Amberly said to help you not be moved by feelings and emotions. And that's the biggest thing that, I took away from what you just said, is how many people in your situation, it's very easy to play victim. It's very easy to say, oh no, poor me, especially when, what you knew is fitness, what you knew is dancing, and maybe your identity's caught up in those things. And now all of a sudden you're shaken from an emotional perspective, say, and if we're not careful, we could ask ourselves the wrong questions and it could take us down the wrong way. So I think you said so many powerful things in there that, we could talk about all day. I mean, we could talk for 20 hours about so many things that you said. I think my question for you, Amberly, now is so let's talk about, you now get out of the hospital. You are now making your comeback, right? You're doing these things and things start to change. Obviously you're still fighting against, a lot of stuff in the situation going on. But how did you kind of reinvent yourself at this season in life? I mean, now where you're at, all right, you have this podcast show that's awesome, Grit and Grace, right? And then you have your speaking, you have the book, you have all of this kind of this next season of life, which your tragedy led you to, right? So give us kind of the transition from, I get out of the hospital and now What did you do? Where'd you go? And how did all of a sudden this new season of Amberly expand to where you are today?
Well, first of all, I had it all wrong. I was making a lot of mistakes. I kept trying to get back to the old me
Yeah.
that was before the accident. And I was trying to, it took me a year and a half before I was finished with surgeries and I was able to train my first client again. And I trained my client on crutches. I felt broken in every way, like physically, mentally, spiritually, in every way. And I
Yeah.
honestly thought I was known for my legs. I worked out with the strongest guys in the gym and kept up with them. I did Krav Maga and Muay Thai, and the instructor used me to break in the new students that came into Krav Maga. And
Yeah.
so I went from being this tough, strong person that was really known for the way that I looked and how strong I was physically to that my whole identity was completely gone. Like I didn't know who I was. And being in the fitness industry and being a dancer, and that was my whole life. um I really thought, who's going to want to work with me? And I went to the gym and I started training a couple of clients. And to my surprise, my business boomed.
Mm.
Like my calendar was booked. And the reason why, people had seen me in the gym in my wheelchair, getting out of my wheelchair to do tricep push downs. They had seen me on crutches. They had seen me on the bicycle when my knee would barely bend over to come. And then the day when my knee finally had enough range of motion that I could circle my leg around and ride the bike. And so my business boomed and I realized I was killing myself with pain. One day I was in the gym and my husband comes up to me and he says, "What are you doing? Get off your leg." There was a trail of blood. I was so busy trying to suck it up and ignoring my body. My stitches came open and I was bleeding. And it was at that moment I thought, I can't keep doing this. I'm not serving myself. I'm not serving my family in the best way. And I'm certainly not being the best trainer for these clients as I could. But what can I do to still do what I love, to still bring joy into my life and other people's lives? And I think that a lot of times when you're trying to figure out what your purpose is, or what your calling is, or what you can do that you feel fulfilled, if you think back to like when you were 8 or 9 years old, what brought you joy, what really lit you up, what had you just squill with happiness, I am telling you, it's probably very closely connected to your purpose or your calling now. For
Yeah.
me, it was dancing on the tables at Dairy Queen on Friday nights after the football game and dancing and seeing these people just would smile and clap and light up. And everywhere I went, it got to where people would say, "Hey, do a tap dance for them." Or my mom would say, I looked like, Shirley Temple and I loved being around people. And they would say, "Hey, do a little time step for them." And so everywhere I went, I felt like I could do this dance and bring people joy. And so I thought, well, how can I still bring people joy and be of service? And I thought, well, life coaching is very similar to training. So even though I can't train, I can still coach people, but in a way that's going to serve me and them better. So I got into coaching and, I went and got certified. I started doing it one-on-one. Then I started doing group coaching. And then I thought, well, how can I make a bigger impact? I was like, this could not have happened for just no reason. Like, what if I could share my story and it could inspire someone else not to give up? And that's when I decided to write a book. And I told my husband, I want to write a book. He's like, "Yeah, right. Okay. You don't even own a computer. Why don't you stick to like training clients and working with people? Just stick to that." And that motivated me even more. When somebody tells me, "Oh, you can't do that," or
Mm.
"You'll never make it," I use that as like my biggest motivator. Like, let me prove to myself that I can. And I think it's really important when you're really going after a goal to seek counsel and not opinion. I told a few people that I wanted to write a book who had never written a book. And of course they would say, oh, that's hard. You're never going to that. I don't think that's possible. I don't think you're going to be able to do that. As soon as I went to somebody who was a best-selling author, he had written 75 books. He's like, oh yeah, you could totally do that. This is what you have to do. So I took a writing class. I went to a conference for authors. I started writing. 81% of people want to write a book.
Yeah.
1% actually end up writing a book. And if you want to be a writer, just start writing.
Yeah.
Go to someone to teach you how. Get a good editor. Go to people who've already done what you want to do and surround yourself with people that believe in you. And guess what? I wrote my whole book. About 90% of it was handwritten. I went to the Apple store, bought my first laptop, took a class at Apple, and the instructor stopped the whole class. And he's like, I just have to say, we have never had anybody take our class that raises their hand as much as you for these silly questions. And I was like, how do you attach a picture to an email? How do you turn it off? What do you do? What do you mean reboot? Like, I knew nothing, and I knew that I needed to learn. So I wasn't embarrassed to ask. I didn't care what people thought. If it made me look stupid or whatever, I was like, I need to learn. So my passion for doing what I wanted to do and writing a book and sharing a message that would inspire and give people hope and some tools to move forward was bigger. I let that be bigger than my fear of, or my doubts, or what people thought of me. And lo and behold, a publisher wanted it. And they said, we don't do any branding or marketing. If you want to get your book out there, you're going to have to figure that out. So Coach JC, I wasn't on social media. I didn't have a Facebook account. I had Instagram, but that was only to basically stalk my oldest daughter. But I thought, okay, if I want to do this, I'm going to have to figure it out. And so I committed every day, and I still commit. I just had a call with a client yesterday, and she said, well, do you do all your social media yourself? And I'm like, yeah, I had to learn how to do that. I spent like average 2 hours a day on Instagram. And I share that because I want people to know that I didn't just magically grow my numbers and get verified and do all it. It's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It's been commitment. It's been really nailing down what my message is and adding value. And I gave value for a whole year. I didn't ask anything from my, tribe on Instagram or Facebook. When a year came around, I'd been just giving. I was like, here is my book. And I took them on that journey with me through the book writing process. They knew who I was. They knew the fear I had about starting on a laptop. And then I got a publisher. They saw me open the box of books for the first time and me cry. Megyn Kelly wanted to interview me on the Today Show. And I was like, what? This is wild. Like, I just didn't give up. I worked every day. I had my vision. And then it all came to where I got to be on the Today Show. And I went from not knowing what I was going to do, feeling lost, to climbing my way out with a lot of grit and by the grace of God, and writing this book, getting on the Today Show. And it was a bestseller in 3 categories. And so if there is anybody that's like, I don't know if I can do that, you can absolutely go after your dreams. If I can do it, starting from nothing. I mean, I had lost everything, my career, my hope. We had $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. And I've been able to climb out of that. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible. And when you surround yourself with people like you, with incredible energy that are always like cheering you on, and you have this card and you read your win all day card, that's where you start.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. What a story of inspiration, but also resourcefulness, right? Like, not knowing, even like the story of sitting in Apple, asking the questions. How many people are so scared to go figure stuff out? And so let's do this really quick. I know we could talk all day. But let's do this. Let's talk just about what you have going on and how people can, get to know you more. You gave so many life-changing principles in this episode, and I would encourage you, if you're listening right now, to rewind and listen and take notes. Like, there's so many practical things, guys, that you could listen to right now and takeaways to implement in your life, no matter what you're facing. Maybe you're not facing anything and you're at a great place, but you want to get to the next level. Same principles apply. So you have the podcast, life coaching, the book, speaking. Am I missing anything?
That's the main thing. I think the thing that I'm most passionate about right now is I have my mastermind called Your Unstoppable Life Mastermind. And I really want to give everybody that's, listening. I value your time and your listeners so much. I know there's a million other things that people could listen to, but you've chosen to listen here today. And so I would love to give your listeners my free downloadable playbook. And
Wow.
it's called Unleash Your Superpower of Resilience.
Mom.
And it's really the tools I use, the PACER method that I came up with to tap into your superpower. And it's a good way, it's a playbook, and it's a good way to, if you're going through a hard time, to really learn how to tap into that resilience and thrive. And if you just text me the word grit, GRIT, to 818-214-7378, just that word grit, and it'll give you your download. Then afterwards, text me anything you want. Tell me, hey, I just heard you on Win All Day with my friend Coach JC, because it's me responding, and I will get back to you. But the easiest way to get the download is that. And I think what brings me the most joy is when I can help others share their message and get them from point A to point B faster. And so I really prayed about it before I started my mastermind. And I said, please bring me faith-filled, passionate people that want to share their story to make an impact, build their brand, and make an income. And that's what I got. And I've had people in the mastermind that have launched their podcast, launched their YouTube channel, that have written their book, all these things. And if I can help you get there faster, that is what I love doing. I know we talked about before you started recording how you've been in masterminds, and I'm always a part of a mastermind. I believe I always need a mentor, a coach, a mastermind, so we keep learning and growing. But man, those masterminds are great when you can come together and share your experience, your strength, your hope, and build each other up. And so that's what I'm most passionate about now. So anybody that wants to, next one starts up early spring of next year. I don't know when this episode will be coming out, but I just love connecting with people. And if I can help in any way, get your message out there, that's what I want to do. But yeah, the book is called True Grit and Grace. My podcast is True Grit and Grace. And I'm Amberly Lago Motivation on Instagram. And you can see some of my behind the scenes shenanigans, mostly involving horses.
Come on. Oh man, what an episode. Again, I always like to respect everybody's time, and we could go on for days talking about everything you talked about. And here's what I want to do. I just want to end and challenge everybody right now. You heard, again, some amazing life-changing principles. Not only am I inspired, and you should be inspired, motivated, encouraged today, but I want to challenge you right now, because you heard a story of someone that was really down and out. And I want to challenge you today in telling you this, like, wherever you're at, whatever life looks like, whatever level you're at right now, do not underestimate the power in who you were created to be. Okay. And don't stop downsizing your most valuable asset. And that is you, right? God created you very unique. You have value in who you are. You heard an amazing story today, right? Some of you've heard my story. You have a story. You have gifts. You have skills. You have knowledge. Listen right now. You have experiences just like me and Amberly. Right now, borrow that as motivation, knowing this. No one has one thing that you have listening that me and Amberly don't have, and that's you. So as you end the show today, guys, and as you hit stop, I just want to challenge you. Like, what do you want to be known for? What do you want your life to represent? Like, what's your message to the world? Just like Amberly creating a whole new story out of a mess, out of trauma. right? What's your new vision? She had to create a whole new vision for her life and stop looking back at the past, right? This is a defining moment, I believe, for many of you listening right now, for you to see the value in you. Some of you listening, you went through like hell in life and you went through trauma in life. And because of that, you lost your vision, you lost your purpose, and now you believe the lies that you cannot make a comeback, that you can't make an impact, that maybe God is done with you. And I'm here today to just deliver this closing message to tell you there is power that lies within you, that God has not finished with you yet, that you were placed on this earth for a reason. And I'm telling you right now, the world needs with you what you have. So if you tuned in today and you're like, you know what? I tuned in today and maybe I was beat up, down and out. Maybe I was just feeling inferior. Listen, maybe you were feeling that until this episode, right? Maybe you felt unworthy until this episode. Maybe you felt underappreciated, devalued. But I'm here to tell you, do not underestimate how you can make one choice, one decision today to say, hey, you know what? Just like Amberly, it's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how many times you get back up. You can create a new story for your life. And today is your day to, I honestly believe, create that new story and borrow Amberly's motivation, her encouragement, her story, and know that just like me and just like her, you can walk out your mission, you can walk out your calling, you can absolutely make your greatest impact and flip that most painful moment. And it can become your purpose, just like it has for me and just like it has for Amberly. So Amberly, we are grateful. We thank you for your time. We thank you for your amazing gift. Guys, go text her. Right? Get that gift. And Amberly, we just believe that everything you sowed today in the life of Win All Day, that you will just be blessed in a ridiculous way. So who loves you? I love you. This is Coach JC. And I want to remind you one last time, you were born a winner. So go win and win all day.